In this week's episode, we are going to discuss whether your current advisor really listens to you or not. Do they really listen to your concerns, or are they just trying to push a product or push a different investment or whatever? We'll discuss that and what you can do to make sure you're with someone that really is keying in on what you're saying. Let's roll.
Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with your host, certified financial fiduciary, Tim Wood. Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author of Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, member of the exclusive Ed Slott Master Elite IRA Advisor Group, and founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim uses an education-first approach with clients nationwide to ensure they understand their choices in planning their own safe money retirement. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and asset protection and growth strategies. And now, from the Safe Money Retirement Studio in Johnson City, Tennessee, your host, Tim Wood.
Over the years, I have had so many clients come in and sit down and tell me, Tim, I just feel like my current advisor isn't listening, or the advisor they had used in the past. So what makes what we do different? How is Safe Money Retirement different from other advisory firms in the way that we hear our clients? That's what we're going to discuss today. But first, if you don't already have a copy of my book, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, what are you waiting for? We will send you a copy absolutely free with no charge and no obligation, so you can start planning your own retirement by knowing what's available out there. Just give us a call. It's toll-free from anywhere in the United States, 1-800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233, or just log on to our website at safemoneyretirement.com and request your free copy right now. So what do we do different that allows us to hear our clients in a way maybe that other advisors out there aren't? And then, the back part of that is your advisor listening to you? So let me kind of tell you where I'm going with this. So I have so many clients that have come in and sat down with me and said, man, Tim, I wish I had talked to you a decade ago or whenever when I was talking to the other advisor, because other advisors, when you go in and sit down, yes, are they getting the pertinent details and the information they need? Of course they are. But there's a difference in just getting information and then trying to sell you on a certain plan or a certain product or a certain company or a certain investment or a certain whatever, trying to get you to do that versus really listening to what your needs and your wants and your desires and your fears are. That's one of the things that really separates Safe Money Retirement from our competition. Couple things that separate us. Number one, of course, we are led by certified financial fiduciary principles, meaning we do everything in our client's best interest 100% of the time, granted. Number two, we're totally independent. So we're not going to push you towards one company or another. We're going to look in the entire independent marketplace in your state and find whatever is best for you. And then the other thing that really separates us is our process. So the very first meeting that you have with us, unless it's an introductory call that we call a discovery call, we do quick 15-minute discovery calls. Those are just kind of, hey, how are you? Here's what I am. Here's what you are. And then if it, kind of explain what the process is and then move you into another appointment for the process. Once you're actually in our process, the first appointment is what we call a fact finder. Now, why do we call it a fact finder? Because we're not going to talk about rates. We're not going to talk about companies. We're not going to talk about investment plans. We're not going to talk about financial strategies. We're not talking about any of that stuff yet because we haven't listened to you yet. So our first appointment, what we call a fact finder, is going to be nothing but us listening to you. Now, of course, we're going to ask questions. We're going to, lead you down roads. But we want to know what you think. We want to know, what are your concerns? Are you concerned about having enough income for the rest of your life? Are you concerned about running out maybe in the future when inflation could be higher? Are you concerned about having enough money to give to your kids when you're gone? Are you concerned about what's going to happen to your spouse? Are you concerned about what's going on in Washington? Are you concerned about all of these things? And create a complete picture from what our clients say. So what your concerns are that is what's going to drive when we get together for our second appointment and we are showing you options, what we discovered on our initial fact finder appointment. That was what you said. You sat there and you said, Tim, I am just absolutely terrified that I'm not going to have enough income when I retire. Okay, well, let's look at that. Where are you going to be on Social Security when you turn it on? How much is that going to be? How much are your expenses? Is there a gap there? Are there any pensions? Are there anything else that's going to pay you an income? If not, let's get that fixed if that's a main concern for you. And it's something that we discuss with every single client. Some people don't need that. Some people just want to make sure that they're not going to lose a whole ton in the next market event, whenever that is. Great. Some people are concerned about long-term care taking a whole lot of their retirement. Great, let's make a plan for that. Some people are wanting to make sure that they can pass on a legacy. Great, let's make a plan for that. That's what makes us a little bit unique in this industry. The other thing that makes us unique is that every plan that we offer has absolutely zero chance of market losses due to any market event ever in the future, which means everything we do is a fixed plan. So in the grand scheme of retirement plans, there are variable plans and there are fixed plans. A variable plan is exactly what it sounds like. And by the way, that's a totally different license to do variable plans. Variable plans can go up, but they can go down. That's what a variable license is, and that's what someone that is a broker for a variable license type of a planning firm, that's what they do. We only deal with fixed plans, which means in all of our plans, whether it's a growth plan, an income plan, a long-term care, a life, or whatever, any of them have no chance for market losses due to anything ever happening in the market. Now, if you were to be in a plan that is a market indexed plan, as far as like a growth plan, or even some income plans have a growth part in them, could you possibly not have any growth a year when the market's down? Absolutely. But your loss is zero. Your growth would also be zero in that case, but your loss is zero. That's the things that separates us. So going back to really the focus of today, does your advisor listen? You have to answer that for yourself. When you sit down with your advisor, are they really taking the time to be quiet and listen to what your concerns are? Are they asking you what your fears are? Are they asking you what keeps you up at night? When you wake up at 4 a.m. and you're awake for an hour because you can't get back to sleep, what's going through your mind? Is it having enough income now? Is it having enough income in 20 years? Is it leaving a legacy? Is it, what happens if my wife gets in long-term care? Whatever it is, let's find what your biggest concerns are. That is the direction that we take. We sit down, we listen, we ask a question, and we listen for the response, and we engage, and we keep going down the path and keep asking the hard questions to get to the root of the matter. It's also why we have the RISA, the Retirement Income Style Awareness, on our website. You can go do it absolutely free at safemoneyretirement.com. That is a tool, completely free, that allows you to answer a set of questions, and at the end it's going to email you an 11-page report on exactly what's going to make you the happiest in retirement based on the answers you just gave. We are ultimately concerned about you and your retirement. Let's make sure it's exactly what you need, and the only way to do that is to really listen and to really dig and to really question and to really probe into all these different aspects of retirement and find out what your concerns are, what your fears are, what you have available, what all of this stuff, everything. And then put a complete plan together that addresses your needs based on what you said and based on what we uncovered in the Fact Finder appointment.
The market goes up and the market goes down. It always has and it always will. But if you are in or near retirement, do you have the time to wait for the market to go through these cycles? Think about it. A 30% loss needs a 42% gain just to get back where you were. Having all your money invested in the market, in or near retirement, is like walking next to the edge of a cliff. What if you lose your step? What if the edge gives way? What if a strong wind blows you over the side? It's good to stay away from the edge of disaster in life, and when you're in or near retirement, avoiding disaster becomes crucial to your survival. Call us today to start protecting your retirement from the next market crash. Call 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Lose the stress of what could happen and start enjoying the benefits of a safe money retirement today. Call right now for your free information kit at 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233.
In this week's case file, we are going to look at the story of Harry and Penny. Great older couple in their mid-60s came in and had a real concern. So what they were looking at, Harry had some physical things because he had had a very physical job over the years, and it was taking a toll on his body now that he was getting into his 60s. He was really having a hard time continuing to do the physical job. He was now a manager there, but he was still having to do a lot of physical stuff. So what they were wanting to do was to figure out what can we do, because they wanted to defer Social Security for him all the way to age 70, if possible, in order to have the highest, obviously the highest amount of income for the both of them for, 70 plus. But then if he passes sooner, his wife would get that as a survivor benefit. So they wanted to keep that going as much as possible, but they needed to figure out how they could get him out of work. So what we were able to do is we sat down, first of all, figured out what their expenses were. That's step number one. We got to come up with an expense number so we know what our goal is. Figured out what their expenses were. Then number two, his wife hadn't already turned on her income from Social Security. Since she was a much lower earner, you can go ahead and turn that on early. So what we did is we went ahead and had her Social Security start. So as soon as he were to quit, still got her income coming in from her work because she was still working, plus her Social Security. Then we had to look and see, okay, well, how much does that get us? And then how much away from the total amount that you need to cover your expenses is that? In other words, trying to figure out a way that we can get them to age 70, which by the way is when she was planning on retiring, get them to age 70 without him having to turn his Social Security on until then. And that's exactly what we did. So she's still working, so we've got her income. Then we went ahead and turned on her Social Security, so we've got that. Then we saw how much extra did we need. Came up, in this case, it came up to another $20,000 a year that they needed right now in order to keep things going just like it was. So we got them into an income plan that paid $20,000 a year, allowed him to be able to retire. So at the time, he was able to retire, got the $20,000 that he needed from him. She still had her income plus her social. And then at age 70, which was still obviously a few years away, but at age 70, then his Social Security would start. So that would kick up really big and allow her to retire, but he's still going to be getting that $20,000 a year income from the Guaranteed Lifetime Income Plan. So that's what we did for them. Now, how can this relate to you? So if you are trying to figure out when can you retire, how can you retire, that's why we need to sit down and make a plan specifically for you. And that's why everything's individualized with Safe Money Retirement. We'll sit down and figure out what's going to be the best plan for you based on how are you physically? How's your health? Are you still able to work? Do you need to leave work? And if so, let's make a plan for it like we did for them. So what we would do for you, again, sit down, figure out your expenses, figure out what we need to plan out, and just try to do it wisely. For some people, it's turning on both socials right then. For some, like them, it was just turning hers on and letting his continue to go, because as you know, it's a huge difference starting it at 62 and starting it at 70. Not quite twice as much, but almost. And he was really concerned about the survivor benefit for her being able to get that amount once he passes, if he passes first, and he's got a lot of health issues. So it's possible, plus men, we go first usually. So there's a good chance he could go early, and he wanted to defer that social as long as possible to help her out. So again, that's why we have to look on each person individually and figure out what are your needs right now, what are your expenses, what do you have as far as guaranteed income sources. Again, we're not talking about if-come. We're talking about income, guaranteed income, and then just make a plan. Your plan is going to be different than the one for them. But sitting down and coming up with a plan specifically for you based on what your expenses are, what your needs are, what your concerns are, where do we need to go for you specifically, that's what's going to bring you your own safe money retirement. Well, I'm about out of time, and I would like to thank you for listening to the Safe Money Retirement Show. If you're serious about your financial future, give me a call and together we'll get your retirement savings on the fast track to accumulate while reducing exposure to market loss. Thanks for listening, and until next time at the same time, I'm Tim Wood reminding you to stay safe so you can step into a secure future.
You've been listening to the Safe Money Retirement Show with your host, Tim Wood. Find out how to contractually guarantee that your income in retirement is guaranteed lifetime income and not if-come. Avoid any future market losses, plan for the potential of long-term care, and make wise planning choices so you can have the retirement that you deserve. Call us now for your free copy of Tim's best-selling book, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. Our toll-free number is 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Or log on to our site at safemoneyretirement.com for more information or to request your free book. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you online at safemoneyretirement.com. The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step toward protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified licensed insurance professional. It's important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.